Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, a lot of stuff is going on over here today when it comes to PlayStation. Now, as you guys probably know, the PlayStation has had a few, different iterations of their consoles so far this generation. Starting off with the PlayStation 5 that came out a few years ago, then around like a year ago or so, we had the kind of upgraded that we've kind of codenamed the Slim, even though it's not really the Slim, it's just the baseline PlayStation 5. And of course, we just had the Pro. And of course, as well, we also been seeing a lot of stuff on the Xbox, the Switch 2, and well, just people kind of curious on what's going to happen in the future when it comes to consoles as a whole. And do we think there's gonna be more? Is it gonna be bad? Is there even gonna be like a somewhat worthwhile improvement, especially with all the controversy on the PlayStation 5 Pro? Now, some of the bigger, I guess, critiques, because I've obviously covered a lot of this on my YouTube channel, is that the PS5 Pro did have improvements. I myself was kind of a big advocate for it, trying to be a devil's advocate, if anything, saying that, yeah, the PSSR is a very good implication. We thought it was actually a very good vibe. Like the fact that like it can, and if it's optimized well, was a really big improvement both for upscaling and making games like 4K a little bit easier, taking the load time off of certain things, and as well just basically improving ray tracing, shadows, and everything else. But we're also trying to figure out like what is that next big improvement? What is that next big jump? And a lot of people have the same skepticisms from the PS3 to PS4. And while we saw a lot of big stuff from the PS1 to PS2, PS2 to PS3, like the Nintendo GameCube to like the Wii, or even things like the Xbox 360. Like we kind of saw these huge improvements over time. But right now it kind of seems like the PlayStation bosses are kind of on the weird side, where number one, they know for a fact there will be future consoles. They know for a fact the PlayStation 6 will be there, and people are still buying consoles, that there is a place for it. But as well, also assuming that, well, we're getting to the point where consoles are becoming irrelevant, and at the same time, it's becoming a little bit more of a weird optional side upgrade, and that's, well, kind of going back to the whole PlayStation 4 Pro, to how we're having PS4 games for so long into the PS5 generation. The fact that the Switch and Switch 2 will most likely be like cross-generational, and of course, as well, things like the Xbox Series S, X, and of course any future Xbox, all having that weird cross-play for when it comes to all the consoles themselves. So I'm going to break down and get my opinion and thoughts on the upcoming news articles over here. I'm talking about, well, what these big PlayStation executives keep on saying when it comes to consoles. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. As well, quick reminder, we are still on a little bit of a break. I will at some point kind of calm down the uploads themselves. I'm kind of doing like one a day as of right this second, as my camera's also still having issues, some stuff we want to go fix ourselves. And of course, as well, we have a few days off in the near future, but we still have a few more videos, and I think we also even have a brand deal as well, just in case you guys see it on the channel itself. I think we might have one or two brand deal videos for Facebook, so you just want to go and help, and if you guys see those in your sub boxes and support them on up in the upcoming days, I would love you very, very much, because it kind of lets me go and do and plan up future giveaways for all of you guys in the channel. So if you guys see those, thank you very much. Check out the Twitters, the Twitch, and subscribe here if you guys are new. Leave a like and your thoughts down below, and let's go talk about the fact that as of right this second, the former PlayStation boss right now is saying that you're not going to even see another PS1 to PS2 jump in performance, and believes as of right this second, we're nearing a point where consoles are becoming irrelevant. Now, obviously, these are going to be some kind of crazy words. In my mind, I do think consoles will always be there. I think there's going to be a PS7, a PS8. I think the Xbox will still be there, although you can kind of see Xbox trying to taper away. We've made a few videos on that. But one of the bigger deals out there is that, like, I do agree that there is like a very, very art of diminishing returns. Because remember back in the day, we saw things like PS1 graphics. We were lucky to even go and realize what is a woman and what's a man at that point. Like, it's crazy, like just in terms of like, just like pixels and everything. Or at the same time, we were looking at environments, or even having videos or cutscenes, and like the PS2 got a little bit nice, a little bit cleaner. Like I remember there was times where I was lucky to even have a save file way, way, way back in the day, if we're talking like the OG stuff, where people basically had to go and have random codes to type in like 7364112 just to have a chance to have a save. It's kind of crazy from how far gaming has come ever since I have well grown up. But I do agree right now, because a lot of games are kind of starting to look a little bit on the like side, lifelike. And well, yeah, it still could be improved, and there will be improvements, but I really don't know where the best improvement is going to be, because also at the same time, like these more higher resolution graphics, or more so almost just on what artists can go and make in terms of, like, say, chairs and details. It's just, if you have the 3D animators, you can make these games look phenomenal as of right now. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of resolution, which obviously increases like the gigabyte size for downloads and hard drive issues, etc., etc. Right now, a company could probably go and spend $1 billion and go have this one, like the whole entire gigabyte, or like, you know, whatever it's called, like a petabyte, like a 1,000 gigabytes. That takes up your entire, or I guess a terabyte. How do I not know that? That's anyway. But when it comes to that stuff, it's like, As of right this second, we could make a game like that. We can make a Call of Duty or any type of crazy game like a Final Fantasy, but obviously it takes a lot of time, money, and effort, and why would anyone want to go and do that? Because also the returns also diminish. But I do agree, as of right now, it seems like things like the Pro, and we saw it a lot with the PS5 Pro, where things like the PSSR are like kind of the next wave for us to try to go and improve these consoles. AI optimization, upscaling, and all that is probably the best thing for us to go and look at. But I do agree that these consoles are kind of becoming irrelevant. Now, they're still there. They still have their niche. They are still usable, and there's a reason why we have them at the end of the day. You want to go sit on the couch, you want to play games, you have to have like a baseline optimization for all these third-party games, basically using that as like the standard, and then PC can be a little bit better over time. They're saying PlayStation celebrating their 30th anniversary, and the former chief Sean Layden is looking to the future in the industry and how the console market is nearing its limit. I think we're at a point where the console becomes irrelevant in the next, if not the next generation, then the next generation indefinitely. Layden says in an interview with Eurogamer, basically saying the PlayStation 6 is going to become irrelevant. Now, I kind of agree and disagree. I do always agree. I think a cheap and basically optimized thing that's basically a PC, which is pretty much what, like, say, the PS5 Pro is. It's just basically a somewhat cheaper optimized console with more custom games. Let's just be honest over here. It's kind of like a PC. But I do agree on that. Like, in my honest opinion, I do think that consoles and PCs are becoming ever more intertwined. We're seeing things like Game Pass on PC. We're seeing things like Steam with pretty much every big game out there. And of course, as well, I can quite literally just go and plug in my PS5 controller into my PC right this second and play games like Helldivers or Final Fantasies or Spider-Man, although it just is up to whenever Sony wants to release them. So I quite literally have my own PS5 on my PC or Xbox, which is kind of the big whole Xbox market employer at the second. But I do also agree too, because we don't really have that much more improvements. Things like ray tracing and shadows and everything looking a lot more lifelike is great, but what do we want in the future? I don't know. Like better graphics, better physics, and even more pores in your face. You can see like the individual beard hairs. I don't know, but still, I do agree that at a certain point, like 8K gaming is already insane. Like whenever that becomes the next standard in our next generation, say the PS6, bro, that is all these games be looking phenomenal. But this also kind of comes back to we always want to have just good games. Like, so I mean, I don't care about the graphics, give me a good game. But I'm basically saying the difference between console generations is getting smaller, and I agree. Visuals are now 4K instead of 1080p. Frame rates are hitting 120 instead of 60, but it's hard to notice these improvements without top-range TVs and speakers, and the best improvements I've noticed is loading times, but even they're nearly instant now for most games, which this is all wins. But once again, I don't really know, where do we go next? I really am kind of curious where we go next. I'll have to just make everything look nicer, bigger open world maps, better multiplayer stuff. Like, there is options. Like, we're not at the peak yet, but I could maybe see in the PS7. Like, what are we supposed to do when everything is basically lifelike with augmented reality? We're using AI to go and fulfill every single type of game, and everything costs $1,000. And, well, what do we do? I mean, I'm happy when we get to that point. That means we'll have a lot more people gaming on your phones or consoles, and I think it's nice. But it is true because, well, these consoles are kind of intertwining once again with PC a lot more. I think we're at a point where the innovation curve on the hardware is starting to plateau or top out, and I agree. At the same time, the commoditization of the silicon means that when you open up an Xbox or PlayStation, it's really pretty much the same chipset. It's all built by AMD, which is true. What do people buy for their PCs? NVIDIA GPUs, which are used for the Switches, and AMD GPUs, which for the Xbox or PlayStation. Each company has its own OS and proprietary secret sauce, but in essence, it's the same. We're pretty much close to the final spec for what a console could be. And I do agree. I mean, like, where else do we really kind of go? We're starting to utilize AI, which we can keep on improving on. We also already have things like, like 8K gaming. So we go 16K, but at that point you go drop $5,000 for the future 16K like resolution. Like, what are we supposed to do? It's kind of crazy. They're saying I started gaming on a PS2, but seeing the difference in fidelity and memory between the PS1 and PS2 games was astonishing. That generational difference has never been repeated. You're not going to see another PS1 and PS2 jump in performance, and I'd probably agree over here because there is just the art of diminishing returns, which is, I think, still cool. If we're talking about teraflops and ray tracing, we've already off the sheet that most people begin to understand. Though I agree on this, though. Like, we've had these huge things of things going from like 480p to 720p. Try to watch this video on like 360p. That's what I had to start watching YouTube on when I first got the internet like 20 years ago. It was horrible. I barely had a chance to see it, but at the time it was dope. I used to watch like Naruto, like just like the random subs when I was like 12 or something, I don't know, 9 years old on random old school YouTube. But I do kind of agree because as of right this second, like, where do we go next? And this is a problem because we saw a lot of this in the PS4 to PS5 to PS5 to PS5 Pro, where basically you could still play games like Horizon, and it was good enough. Like, I still noticed improvements, but once again, these improvements are getting smaller and smarter, and even the PS5 Pro is a good example of it was just really hard to see. Like people are like, you need to have a magnifying glass just to see the difference. Now, obviously, I saw it and most people did, but what's going to happen when we go from the PS6 or the PS6 Pro from the PS5 Pro? It's still going to be very, very similar improvements because unless you do have like this expensive 8K or 16K TV, or you're trying to go get these really high hertz monitors, like at 240 hertz, but at a certain point, going from like 140 hertz to 240 hertz is also kind of that same difference. So obviously, we have things like AI and ray tracing and shadows, and you can obviously make things a little more on the detailed side, but at the end all be all, where do we kind of go next? And I don't really necessarily know. I would like to see, and I'm sure there will be something, and we will still be seeing consoles relevant, people will still be buying them, but I do kind of agree that this random blind, like this line between the PS5 and Xbox and PC is really getting small, especially because once again, you can go and have cross-play with all these systems. You basically go once again, just plug in your PS5 or Xbox controllers and play a lot of these games. Like you could literally play Halo, Forza, whatever you want on Windows Game Pass. Same thing too as well with your PS5. And I mean, granted, you have to wait a little while for Steam. I think it's all there. So it does kind of seem like these people are thinking these consoles will be irrelevant. And I do want to say that I'm very curious to see what's going to be that big selling point for the PS7. Granted, brand new single player games, good experiences, maybe good cheap price point, or whatever it might be, I'm sure there will still be relevancy there. But what about the PS8, PS9, PS10? I'll be curious to see what and will still be existing at that time. So give me your thoughts and comments on what you guys would even want to go and see in improved in video games. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have all the Twitters and Twitches down below, and I appreciate you guys all so much for watching here in the first place.